found absolutely nothing happened. Hello everybody, my name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author, idiot, and loin streamer, and today I wanted to talk to you about the criticism of nothing freaking happened in this book. What the hell? What the frick? I'm sure some of us have heard it. I'm sure some of us have even said it at some point about somebody's book. I know I have. But what does it really mean? Because there are actually, I think, what I've noticed, some different manners behind what it means, and how exactly do you solve it if you're a writer when nothing is literally happening in your book. Before we get started though, number one, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. Number one way to be featured on here is through Lamoy, which is the monthly prompt writing contest, where I give you guys a prompt, you answer the prompt with the best short story that you could come up with that relates to the prompt, and then first Monday of the month, we read your guys' stories together. Number two is if you are an indie author and you've got a book out there or a book coming out, submit the book's first chapter and cover here. They'll be read on the channel and hopefully it'll help more readers find your book. This is my way of hopefully sharing more content than I would ever be able to read, and also as objectively as I can, sharing genres and books that I also might not ever choose to read, but still deserve to find their audience. Because there's a lot, and there is a lot of personal taste in book pickup, and there is a lot of personal suffering in book pickup, if you're me. And then number three, if you would like to check out any of my books, they're all linked down in the description below. You can get them at your favorite retailers or find them at your library upon request. I hope you enjoy them. Beautiful art incoming. Please purchase my books so that I can purchase more art to show off the beautiful things that go on inside of them. With that said, let's jump into the topic. So recently I have been reading ACOTAR, which was a choice made as a buddy read. And if you're not aware, if you're not in the know, if you're not aware, ACOTAR is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. It's a pretty big deal. It's pretty big deal in fairy stuff. Also, they're hardly fairies. Let's be real. They're werewolves with extra powers. But at least according to ACOTAR. But so I've been reading ACOTAR, and this came up because pretty much for the first half of the book, if not more than that-ish, nothing is happening. There are just like, the character doesn't want anything, the character doesn't do anything, the character is just sort of floating around. There are random date chapters where she's not doing anything. There's just, oh, I'm gonna show her my art gallery now for no apparent reason. The love interest, who has an absolute reason to be doing something, is doing nothing. And what do I mean by this? Is there is no driving force in any of these characters. So the way that I personally view nothing is happening is, are the characters actively trying to achieve something? Do they actively want something? There should be somebody in a story somewhere actively doing something. It doesn't have to be anything big. It can just be like, I need to get to work. I need to go to the store. I need to make my mother stop crying. There should be some sort of thing that is making the character work. And Feyre at the beginning of ACOTAR did have this thing. I needed to hunt so that I could feed my family. However, you get past that and it like everything drops away until about the halfway mark when she's like, oh, now I need to save Tamlin. But even then, as she's sitting in the dungeon, she's just sitting there waiting. She has no goal. She has no, I need to get out of here and figure out how to solve this riddle. She has, I am too stupid, I can't solve this riddle. Oh no, this sucks. Oh, the torture, the pain. I'm just sitting here suffering. She's still not doing anything, even though she has all of the motivations in the world to be wanting something, to be an active character in her own story. She just sits there. And it's the same thing with the surrounding characters, is Lucian's not doing anything, Amarantha's not doing anything, Tamlin's not doing anything, Rysand's not doing anything. They should have objectives of their own that contribute to what draws them forward into taking action. And that is something that also would have clarified what Amarantha is freaking doing, because she has no reason to exist and make the deals that she made with Feyre for letting Tamlin go. Because she's like, you know what? I could torture you, or I could torture and kill you, or I could put you through these trials, and then if you beat the trials and or my riddle, then I will let your boyfriend go and give all of the fairies back their power that I've collected. But that's if you win. If I win, I could do to you what I'm already doing, what I could already do right now. So it's a win situation for you and a lose situation for me every which way you look at it. There is no driving force here that actually made Amarantha make a decision. So everybody is just hanging out. And this is one of the problems that comes in with storytelling. But then you'll end up saying, oh, something did happen, because when she's in the dungeon, she gets to go to the first trial where she has to survive the worm. So something is happening. Technically, yes. Now, this is where the big kind of headbutt of nothing happening and something happening sort of meet ahead. Because you're going to see, because what I have noticed through reading other books and reading book reviews and seeing how other people respond to things is, if characters are doing something on a smaller scale, they will be driven. They will be going, I have this goal, I'm going to this thing, I'm doing this thing constantly, and they will be quick pace moving. I've seen people say that is nothing happens in this book, and then go on to describe everything that happened in that book, which was actually people trying to solve things. It just wasn't big picture things like fighting a giant worm and trying to survive. So these small character actions, or these smaller character journeys, the more character focused stories, character driven stories, will be called nothing happens, because they don't fight a big baddie, which is what the expectation is. However, these stories where the characters kind of meander for 350 pages, however, then they fight a big worm, it looks like something happened because there was a giant external conflict of some kind where a main character had to take action against some external baddie. So this is where some of the conversation has gotten confusing for me, and I've just slowly started to figure it out. Maybe you've experienced this as well, and sometimes it seems like the nothing happened is just a way of saying, I didn't like this, but I don't want to say that for one reason or another. And then you've got stuff like, his name was Augustin as well. Like, yeah. Look, I can't help. I read 850,000 words of that. It is an example of a lot of things, which includes nothing is happening. Because a majority of his name was Augustin is just hanging out, is passing years. Like, we go through at least 2 lifetimes. Yeah, because she's like 43 when she goes back in time. And then she also goes like mid-40s when she is in her normal era. But we just pass through time where she's just meandering. She's going to a concert. She's going to school. Time skips through years going, nothing really happened this year. And so in between that, you just have her checking her email, checking the forum, going to school some more, talking, like harassing Beth. And there's just nothing happening because the character is not being an active participant in their own life. By nothing happening, I mean the character is not driven to do things. So she's just pulled forward in the story by time passing, by not making choices, by not interacting with the environment. She's just sort of there, like a journal, like a catalog. Nothing is happening until something happens. And then nothing happens again. Is this making sense, or is this the kind of thing where you need to like read the book to get the example of what I mean by nothing is happening? If a character is just going out on random dates because reasons, not even because she wants to, and everybody is just kind of existing and like throwing things at her because reasons, nothing is happening. It's just happening around her to fill pages. However, the way that you fix this nothing is happening, and you also make your work more dynamic, give it more tension, is you consider what every character in any given scene wants and what they're doing to accomplish it. So if we go back to like the example of ACOTAR, we have Feyre, who needs to make this money to feed her family or her family's gonna starve. It's winter, she's the only one that's capable of hunting apparently. I don't know how her dad survived before she was born. I suppose she was shooting arrows before she was out the womb to make sure that her mother and her father had food. But so her goal at the beginning of the book is to feed her family so that they don't starve. And also to get that extra kill and cut the carcass of that wolf so that she could bring it back and sell it for max amount of profit so that they can afford more of what they need because they're poor now. And her sisters are kind of greedy and kind of taking all of the money all of the time. So she needs to bring back more stuff to cover food costs, to cover fuel costs, to cover basic needs. So she's got to bring back as much as she can. That is a legitimate need, a legitimate drive, a legitimate reason to do something. There's also the fact when she looks at that wolf, when it comes out of the woods and she goes, that's a fairy. And she just hates fairies. I don't even remember if there's a reason why she hates fairies other than the fairy tales. Which give her a reason to randomly hate the fairies. But so then she kills the fairy because she's like, fuck you. Okay. That's still a decision based on her needs and her desires that caused her to take action. So then after that, you would be like, she's got all of this meat and these pelts. It's time to go and sell so that she can get the money. That is another driving force that says doing the thing. Following that moment, when she's at her cabin with her family, Tamlin comes in and is like throwing things around. And that is the fairy friend, fairy high ruler of the wolf that she killed, because that was actually a fairy. And so his goal is to find the person that killed his brother or his friend. So now his goal is to find the person that killed his friend. At this point, Feyre's goal should be killing this guy or getting this guy out of here, which it does happen. It does go that way. He says, okay, you're coming with me. Now the problem begins here, because what Tamlin should be doing is considering what the curse is, what his reason is for being there. That should always be in your scope. The same... Gosh, like every little decision that your character makes, there should be a legitimate reason as to why they made that decision and how they came to the conclusion of that decision. It doesn't have to be rational, but it does have to be logical. Like when the money guys came in and like busted her dad's kneecaps, why was it her sisters that went into the other room, but she was the only one that was stayed and was allowed to be there? She should have been chased off. Oh, except she had to look better compared to her sisters, so she got to stay there and watch her dad be traumatized so that she could be traumatized. Traumatizing your character is not a good enough reason to make decisions for them to witness things. Especially if it shows no difference on who they are as a person. You're just creating trauma porn to try to make your character more sympathetic, and trauma does not automatically make your character more sympathetic. Anyway, I'm getting off here. Point being, so there's this whole curse with ACOTAR that this guy, all of the fairies had their magical powers taken by this chick named Amaranth, and their realm is cursed, and he has to find a woman, a human woman, who has a lot of hatred for fairies in their heart, who killed a fairy in cold blood, and make that person fall in love with her in order for him to get, and all of the fairies to get their powers back. So that is a reason for him to be pursuing her. However, he kidnaps her and then basically leaves her alone, knowing that he's got like less than a year in order to break the curse before Amarantha comes back around to collect the due that she's paid after 49 years. He should be actively making decisions that should bring her to his side. However, every time they interact for like the first half of the book until the art gallery, he is growling, he is snarling, he is only acting like the Beast because it's supposed to be a Beast retelling, instead of him actually trying to be charming and her being like, fuck off, I hate your kind. Which, that should have been what it is, because she had hatred for the fairies, but he was supposed to be courting a human to like him. So you see, these choices that you make should be inspiring the characters to go into action to do things. However, if you neglect what the characters want and only follow on by like vibes, or follow on by like, I have to do this retelling, but I don't really understand what the story is, or you just kind of want your characters to be interacting in the most vaguest of ways because it's sort of fan fiction of your own characters and there's not really a plot until halfway through the book, then you end up with characters who are not doing anything, at least for me. And I don't see the big picture, the big action things as a sign of something happened. because I can go 300 pages with nothing happening, and then this thing happens that makes no sense, but it is a big thing, but it still makes no sense. That doesn't make up a story not having a plot and not doing anything for 300 pages just to throw a random thing in once every 20 pages after the halfway mark. Does that make sense? Am I making any sense at all on this do nothing? Probably not. This video is kind of scattered because I'm not really sure the best way to discuss this. Anyway, the next time that you're thinking of a character in a book or in a story and you're going nothing is happening, look at what the character's actions are. See if you can determine what the character desires as opposed to what they're externally doing. And are they taking action specifically in regards to that thing they desire? Because what would have really worked for ACOTAR? What would have really worked is Tamlin trying his hardest to get Feyre to change her mind about fairies, because he's got to charm her. He needs to be the most charming person he can possibly be for the sake of his people, for the sake of his kingdom and his realm, and so he needs to be trying to get her. And maybe she's misinterpreting every little thing that he does because she hates him, and when you've got, you know, your brain is already rotted from hating somebody, you take everything in the worst possible manner. So maybe he's smiling at her and he's trying to be charming, and she's reading it as, oh my gosh, he wants to eat me. I have to get out of here. Like, especially because ACOTAR is written in first person, she could have just misinterpreted literally everything that he did that was in good faith. However, instead, it tried to copy him as the beast for just the sake of copying the beast. And then nothing happened. She made no attempts to escape. She mapped out the castle for no apparent reason because that never comes into play. She never tries to escape. And she makes a lot of decisions that are random because she doesn't actually have a goal. So she just has to be there. And the same thing happens as you get further into the book and a bunch of months pass. She's got no goals. He's got no goals. So she just sits there and paints. And it time skips for months, saying that they've built this relationship over months when nothing has happened. And so then you get to the point halfway through the book where she suddenly cares about this guy, and you're like, there's no reason for her to care about this guy because they've not done anything for each other except he has shown her his mansion with the art gallery, and she's like, I like art. I really like art. So, impotent characters don't take action. They don't have desires. They don't do things. Things happen to them. And that's what it means to have a character not do anything. For nothing to happen in a story. Is a character is just impotent, is sitting there, is waiting for things to happen to them, or for the plot to force something upon them that puts them in a position, which often can feel very random. But sometimes that works. It doesn't work if your character doesn't actually want anything, and then I think this actually comes down to the trope that people complain about, where it is give your characters personalities and desires outside of their love interest. If literally nothing is happening in the story until something happens to the love interest, then that becomes the only thing that exists. Is these characters are only interacting because the author has an end game of making these other two characters bang. So anytime they actually interact, it's to force them closer together, as opposed to them actually having a story happen and then falling in love as the story is happening because of independent goals. Or in the case of Tamlin and Feyre wanting to escape and Tamlin trying to court her, and both of them failing. Stuck with your characters at any given point in your book. To close out, because this is all over the place, to close out, if you're stuck with your characters at any given place and you're trying to figure out how to get your characters to do something or how to liven up your story, consider what do your characters want at that given moment on a smaller scale, not a bigger scale, because our decisions day to day are not necessarily these big picture things where we're trying to save the kingdom. We've got small, minute, little decisions that we make every day that get us closer to the thing that we want, or that procrastinate us further away from the thing that we want. So try thinking about what every character in any given moment wants and what they're doing to try to achieve it, even when they're off screen, because what the characters are doing off screen may end up creating tension on screen for things that then affect the characters who are on screen. Like if you look at Plead More, Body More, Wayland is doing stuff off screen that actually ends up affecting Joey and Jag on screen, because he's got a goal that he's also trying to accomplish. So slow down and analyze what characters want and how it looks like they're going about trying to get those things. And it's not always as straightforward as a character telling you this is the thing that they want, because they might tell you they want something and they go around the back to do a different thing, because people lie. So if you're stuck with your own book, consider that. Consider thinking about what your character wants, how they're going to go about getting it at any given moment. Because point A will always lead to point B. A decision I make now will always lead into consequences that give me a new fork in the road for new decisions to make, and it just keeps branching off. And books and characters should be and are the same way, whether it's an epic or a character-driven story. And that's what I mean when I say nothing is happening. I hope that makes sense. Probably not. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What was the last book that you read where freaking nothing happened, and what did that mean to you? With all that said, thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend, and don't die.
Was that Wayland Cross in the trunk? Do you know, or is that something that's still being figured out?
The person in the trunk was not Wayland Cross.
Is he in trouble?
We don't know who did it, but as the owner of the car, the longer he's missing, the worse it looks for him.
Cross isn't a killer. For the last couple of years, the average number of murders in Baltimore has been over 300, and it's been going up. Mind you, that's only whatever the badges count as official murder, and believe me, there are people that don't count when they die. Wayland? If you're down here, tell me. I'm not talking to the badges, I've been looking for you. They found a body in your trunk. Why? Did you do that? To the left, plain black letters read along the wall. You walked in the corridor. Once that ends, you chose the dark is on the right. My vision goes blurry, flickers black and black and black for longer intervals until I can't see anything at all. I'm not screaming anymore, but my voice echoes back to me. Where the hell am I? You're dead, Josephine. Even smart people do stupid shit sometimes, right?